And hello once again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Best ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. We do this with the best tag team partner in the business, Richie V.
Eddie Ted, I almost thought you were going to say the best virtual tag team partner.
But that's the beautiful thing about the technology.
Yes.
The virtual world is here. We are doing this. You are remote, enjoying some family time. And I think we have the best engineer in the business, Brian Graves.
Super producer, Brian.
Yes. Hybrid show tonight.
Yes.
Richie V and I are doing this remote. Second part of the show is an interview that took place earlier today talking about whether or not if boxing is on the rise. So we're going to talk.
That should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's detailed with Mr. Todd Bascom. We're talking the welterweight division. We're talking heavyweight division. We're also talking about DAZN, the new streaming service that's available for MMA, that handles MMA and boxing, which is, they are branding themselves, Rich, as the Netflix of sports.
All right. Well, I mean, there is a market for it for sure. You know, if you can start compiling all the sports-related recordings over the years, I can see there being enough content to make a channel of it. And you know, there's always something that someone wants to watch from 20, 35 years ago.
That's true.
Sure, why not?
That's true. Hey, we want to give some big shout-outs. Of course, WGBB, the home team, WRAQ, upstate New York, Global Community Radio that's out there on the internet, the interwebs, and FSC Radio in Philadelphia. Big shout-outs to our friends there. And the Underground in Kansas City, Missouri. Big shout-out to 9-0 and his team that promotes us and plays the show. And I think we're on a roster with Cheryl Underwood, Rich.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're on a roster there. We come on Thursdays and Sundays. So that was a deal that we signed. But I guess there's a couple of topics, Rich, you and I need to discuss. I don't know if we wanted to or not to talk about the Tiger effect, Tiger Woods winning the PGA tournament today.
I think we need to talk about that because let's face it, I don't know anyone who wasn't rooting for Tiger. This is serious comeback story, considering everything he's been through the last, was it 2013, the last time he won? Has it been that long?
It has.
And you know, all the personal issues he had, injuries, you know, then getting busted with drugs in his system and DUIs and all that. And even out of his own mouth, like just a year ago, saying he didn't even know if he'd, you know, ever compete on tour again. And what? Here he is now. He gets an official tour win, moves up to the top 15 in world rankings tomorrow, and is back in the hunt. And came in only second, I think, right, as far as the President's Cup.
That's true.
So, this is the kind of comeback story you want to hear about.
Yeah, Tiger is definitely on the rise, and it's great for golf.
Well, of course.
I mean, number one, you look at just the action shots out there that you see of Tiger Woods out there, and just the crowds, and you know, it's so funny because the networks are just solely following Tiger because they've been waiting for this moment. They've been waiting for this effect. So, good to him. Good to see that he's back. He's got to get back on and win a major. I'm sure he's going to be in it for next season. Make this thing interesting again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do remember, I know it wasn't even until the first incarnation of Tiger that I said, let me try picking up a set of clubs and just mess around with this. And, you know, I learned to enjoy the sport. Didn't play it as much, had to figure out something else to dedicate my time to. But, yes, the Tiger effect and getting the sport of golf out there even more into the masses, this is just a win-win all around.
As we segue from this, Rich, the other hot topic that's, one of the many hot topics that are out there is Dr. Christine Ford is going to testify this week against Supreme Court Justice nominee or candidate Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, at least that's what the word is.
That's the word is right now. And it could change at any minute.
Right.
Because there's a lot of negotiations going on back behind the scenes. But the big thing about this, regardless how this turns out, whether, and it's not about being a Democrat or Republican.
Right.
The fact is, sexual assault, people that have been, you don't want to say sexual assault victims, but people that have been abused in any which way.
Right.
You see a situation like this, and it's magnified, but you can also see out of your lens both sides of this, meaning why 2/3 of the people that have been victimized don't say anything at all.
Right, because of that, you have to figure that they just have the feeling or under the opinion at this point that why say anything? Why bother? It's not going to make a difference. No one's going to believe me anyway. And, I think it's safe to say that in today's environment, at least, in the recent environment, that people should realize that, hey, say something, now you will be listened to. You will be heard. You won't be blown off. And it will be taken seriously.
That is so true, and I'm sure the world will be watching this week when Dr. Ford testifies.
We will say this. If anyone else comes out with an accusation that could be, at least validated to an extent, because, you never want to play judge and jury off of a completely unbased, undefined, unsubstantiated allegation. That's just an accusation.
That's true.
You can't do. You got to do like the process is, and if it's validated to have happened, then you have to act.
That is true. As we go to our next topic, I was watching football today, and the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, potentially suffered an ACL, torn ACL.
Ouch. Isn't that, wouldn't that be season-threatening, season-ending possibly?
Season-ending. And already the questions have come out. Will the San Francisco 49ers give Colin Kaepernick a call?
You would hope. Throw him in the running. It's not like he's not qualified.
Right.
This is, and honestly, it's also not like it wouldn't be the best PR move. Let's kind of segue that, in a related topic to Nike, with their putting Kaepernick up as the spokesman for the latest campaign. And yeah, sure, as it's being reported, of course, initially the stock slipped. People were saying, yeah, that's right. See, no one wants to see his face out there. This is wrong. They shouldn't have done that. But what you're not hearing too much of is, oh yeah, the stock bounced back and recovered multiple times over since that happened. So it's now looking like one of the greatest PR moves that they could have made. And it's what the truth is. The truth is maybe the majority of people are recognizing it for what it is. So, just from a pure sports performance opinion, put him in. The man can play. He's qualified. He can get the ball downfield. He knows what to do. From a PR perspective, put the man in there. The people will see that, all right, you're on the right side of things, and stop playing, all this political garbage that we've been having to deal with.
I think that if this was to happen, the collusion case would go away. The respect, there's been enough credible reporters to get out there that kneeling was for the racial injustice.
Right. Not the flag.
Not disparaging a flag
at all. Never did, never was, and that's the end of that. People are just trying to twist it around into something that it wasn't.
And lastly, which we really didn't hear, was sales after the promo of making, Colin Kaepernick the focal point of the 30th anniversary. Is online sales skyrocketed close to 30 to 35%.
Right. I heard a number. I want to say, was it 3 billion or 6 billion increase in sales overall?
Yeah.
Something like that, or valuation. Stock price. It bounced back that high. I mean, my joke to it was, I guess all the people that went out and burned their Nikes decided they needed to buy some new ones.
It was so funny because I was in a couple of text chats where people were like, with a picture of them dropping their Nikes in the garbage cans and all of this. And I, the first thing I said, hey, if that's a size 13, don't throw it away.
Throw them over here.
Throw them over here if you got, a pair of Air Jordans or what,
Yep.
As we segue from there, we went to an event this past week, PEPCOM, which did its holiday extravaganza. I can't believe we're talking about holiday extravaganza.
I know. You almost don't want to say the word.
Right. So here it was, September. There were it was noted that there were 60 vendors there.
Yes, it was a nice crowd.
It was a nice crowd. What was the showstopper for you?
The showstopper. Because of course, since we are members of the media, we do get a little advance notice about these things. So we know who's going to be in attendance. And while, everything has some level of interest, there's always a few points here and there, a few vendors who I really want to speak with and find out a little bit more about their technology, whatever it is they're making. And this time, for me, there were two of them. One of them is it's not a drone really. I think they want to call it as a pocket-sized flying camera. The company is called Air Selfie, and it's the Air Selfie 2 is the name of the device. Real small little camera, like the size of maybe 2 decks of cards side by side. Nice 1080p video, short flight time, but easy to use. Of course, like everything else, it's a mobile app to control the device. Takes beautiful-looking pictures and video. So I went to talk to them, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get a review unit so I can tell our listeners about that one. That was the big one as far as for entertainment value, and there were a couple of security companies that I was looking for. And, of course, right now the name is escaping me of the one I was speaking with the most. I am looking for it right now, and it'll hit me. But
they did the smart home service, correct?
Smart home service, correct.
Got it.
Life Shield, I guess.
Life Shield.
Life Shield. Very interested in their product. They're in the same space as like Nest,
right?
And a couple of the other ones, and but it was simple to set up equipment. Cameras, sensors, no wires, all wireless, but also with support if your cable is taken down. A lot of good things. Integration with Z-Wave and IFTTT compatibility and the control with Alexa, all kinds of good stuff. So I'm hoping to get some more information from them as well to look at their product. Because definitely, home security, everyone's concerned about that. Kids or no kids, you want to be able to know what's going on in your house. It can just be burglary, it could be fire, carbon monoxide. Their devices monitor all of these things, and there's no fees. Once it's installed, you're monitoring it yourself. You're getting the alerts. You don't have to worry about the false alarms going out to police departments, and then, as happens like in our area, getting a fine for it if you have too many false alarms, things like that.
True.
So, and it's a very, very properly priced system when you get a few of the options on it. So those were the two I was really, really looking for.
I will tell you really quickly, I was really happy to see ViewSonic there.
Yes.
A company that we remember when we were growing up, just getting involved into technology.
Yes.
There was the old, who didn't have an old CRT that had the ViewSonic logo on it?
The ViewSonic logo. If it wasn't ViewSonic, it was NEC.
Yes, that is true.
But both of them were the brands to have. They were great monitors, great color. And now, I mean, you know, you and I both saw that, what was that thing, like 50-something inch wide monitor? It was ridiculously large.
Crazy. It was a 4K monitor.
4K. And I'm
the
sorry,
quality.
The quality was amazing. It, you know, automatically detecting rotation and adjusting pixel sizes properly. And that thing was well under $1,000.
Yes.
For the quality of the display, was just an unbelievable price point. So yeah, that was really good to see.
Yes, it was. Hey, this is Rich and Ted. You listen to Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Rich, I will say this much to you. Verizon, you know I am a friend. We are all both friends of Verizon. They support us. They've supported the show in the past. We've done all different types of reviews. This is not a sponsored segment right here. I just want to put that out here. Verizon is starting to roll out the 5G on October 1st in the cities of Houston, Indianapolis, Los Angeles, and Sacramento happen to be the lucky cities chosen for the initial test.
Why couldn't they have gotten New York in?
I don't know why they couldn't have included New York. I did reach out to Verizon to get one of their reps here in the next upcoming shows to talk about the benefits from the business side of 5G versus, you know, just the consumer side of it. Those people that are chosen for the initial test will include a whole goodies bags worth of 3 free months of service, 3 free months of YouTube TV, and a free Chromecast or Apple TV. Why not New York, huh?
Why not New York? I mean, let's face it. Remember, New York is the home of Verizon.
Right.
Verizon started here. New York is the biggest market. New York is the tech. I mean, come on. It should have been here.
It should have been here, but what's good is they're putting the other providers on notice. The only one I think you can't put on notice is Google. Because if they ever really wanted to roll out that Google fiber,
it's done.
It'd be a problem for everyone.
Yep, it would be.
Definitely.
Verizon, Fios has gotten a strong foothold.
It does. It does.
It would make them shake, you can be sure. But, things still cost money. And unless Google could do it at a fair and competitive price point, it still will be hard to top all the add-on services that Verizon adds in, or has the capability of adding in.
That is true. And for, I guess, once in a lifetime, not really in a lifetime, but now, Verizon is considering themselves a technology company.
Technology company, yeah.
About time.
It took them long enough to realize what they've always been. That's what they are. They're not just communications, they're technology.
Oh, man. So listen, I know we're getting ready to, like I said, this is a hybrid show. Some of us are getting ready to, well, you and I are getting ready to check out of here. And I'm virtually going to have a conversation with Todd Bascom regarding whether or not boxing is on the rise, talking about Anthony Joseph, Deontay Wilder. We're going to reference Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence Jr., some names that for our boxing listeners, it's I would say it's a pretty decent discussion. For you, what's new? What's going on this week?
Not much. This is, you know how it is at our 9 to 5. At least things are now getting back into operational mode, not startup mode. And here's the whopper. Think about this. Midterms have already started.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing.
Otherwise, I really have not too much planned this week. This is a maintenance week. Just get some things situated, get some things installed.
slow and steady and low profile this week.
Okay.
No events, no nothing. I've just got to meet the teacher scheduled for this Thursday.
Ah, those are always fun.
So, hey, we're getting ready to roll out here on the live show. We're going to go into a recorded interview that took place later today. We want to say thanks again. And Richie V.
You did.
Talk to you later.
You got it, everyone. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.
And hello, once again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Best ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com, where you'd find our latest Twitter handle, Facebook feed, our archive podcast, up-to-date current blogs, and guess what? We've even added a YouTube stream, so you get to see my ugly mug in the studio on a Sunday, yipping it up. So we have some archive, about 10 archive shows up there. That's the one-stop shop. But we have on the phone very good old, dear, near and dear friend of mine, Todd Bascom, who usually talks about some fringe sports, some sports that might not be as popular in the United States. He's been on before to talk about soccer, how we build up soccer. We talked NHL. We talked a little golf last time. Now we get to talk about the wonderful world of boxing because Anthony Joshua put on the show recently, and there's a lot of talk about unification, bouts, and all the above. Todd, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. Since the last time we talked, primarily where we were out on the links, I'm not sure we were out in Long Beach. No, we were out in Woodmere.
Woodmere, yeah.
You got
eaten up by the mosquitoes.
Eaten up by the mosquitoes, and my horrible game with my undersized golf clubs were the talk of the town. But it was great getting out there with you. We got to do that more often. So let's get right into it. But before we do that, what's the best ways to get in contact with you? How do we find you on social media?
I guess you could find me on Twitter just using my name.
All right.
I don't really maintain a huge social media presence like that, but that's how you could do it.
Okay. So we can find you at Todd Bascom. So let's get with it. I just want your thoughts on the potential of Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, potential fight. He has to get through Fury in December. But what are your thoughts about this April 13th date that's already, the line has been drawn in the sand, Wembley Stadium, 80 or 90,000 folks. What's your thoughts on something like that actually happening?
It needs to happen. That's issue one. Again, like you said, assuming Wilder gets through Fury, which most people think is pretty much as close to a guarantee as you want to say. But I will say this. Wilder, if you remember his last fight with the Cuban, Ortiz, I believe, he got touched. He got touched pretty good. And for a while, it looked like Ortiz might put him away. So, if he starts catching big shots from Fury, who's knocked out some people before, you never know what'll happen, especially in the heavyweight division. But let's throw that aside for a minute and assume he wins. It's the fight that needs to happen. It's the biggest fight in the sport, and especially now that people are talking about the heavyweight division again. So they need to find a way to make that happen. I'd like to see it sooner, but if they get that done, that'd be what boxing needs.
Definitely. There's nothing like a heavyweight championship fight, and with it also being a unification bout. boxing, you kind of want to feel and say boxing's on the rise again. I mean, it has its problems like any other sport. But I think that match would put it in the right place that it needs to be, because we haven't, you remember in the 80s and early 90s where boxing was. And, I'll even go back to the 70s, the toast of the town. We haven't seen that, but we kind of feel it. This, after watching the Joshua fight, you kind of feel like, it's coming back, and we think of those big matches from years ago. I want to dance around, get your thoughts on previously about 2 weeks ago, Canelo and Triple G had their second match. I scored it personally. Now, I'm nobody. I'm just a regular fan, and I scored it a draw. But I was okay with Canelo winning, because at the end of the day, you look at both of the boxers, and you're like, man, Triple G got touched up. What were your thoughts on the I guess, second battle between Canelo and Triple G, and do you want to see a third one?
Well, I see it a little different than you do.
Okay.
So I'll preface my statement that way. I had it not much different than you, but I had it 115, 113 Triple G.
Okay.
Really close fight. Is having it a draw crazy? Absolutely not. Is having 115, 113 Canelo crazy? Absolutely not. Much closer fight than the first one. So I have, while I don't agree with the decision, and as far as I'm concerned, Triple G is 2-0 against Canelo. But if anybody tells me they feel like Canelo won that fight, yes, okay, I'm good with that. I can't dispute, because it was that razor thin to me. So that being said, do I want to see it again? The answer is no.
Okay.
For a couple reasons, and I think part of this will come out in where we're going to head after this, but so I'll kind of skip that for now. But the main reason is I kind of feel like Triple G is 36 now, something like that. 36,
about
37.
That. 37.
He's clearly on the back nine, right? He's on the back nine in his career. He's still a great fighter. Canelo is, you can make an argument for him pound for pound in the world. And he stood right there, and in my opinion, he beat him twice. So it's not like Triple G is on the trash heap. But I think by the time we start to get, if they do make a third fight, it's probably going to be sometime in 2019, like maybe around Cinco de Mayo again.
Okay.
So, now Triple G's 37, and as my father used to like to say, it's like fighters get old fast. So he could get in the ring and just be a dog. And it could be a completely one-sided thing, and we're all upset that we spent our $59.99 on it, or whatever. I think we've all seen enough. We all have our opinions on who won. The first fight was garbage. You'll never ever convince me that Canelo won that fight.
Right.
Second
I agree
one,
with you.
Second one, yeah. Okay, so they had two good fights. For me, worst case, it should be 1-1. And so it's now, I've seen enough. I don't think we're going to see, even if Triple G doesn't get old fast, I think we're going to see pretty much the same fight that we saw the first two times. Very close, razor thin, and we're all going to be saying, well, I thought this one won. And I thought, it's just, why bother? been there, done that, right? So I've seen enough.
Talking about older fighters, I've got to bring this up. I don't want to waste your time because I know we're tight for time. It seems like every few months, Floyd Mayweather Jr., his head pops up. And I won't go through, everyone saw that video that went viral last week. I don't know where they were, but it went viral. They must have been in Japan or somewhere. But do you care to see, potentially at the time, it could be a 42-year-old Floyd Mayweather Jr. against anyone? I mean,
No.
Because it's, and I just want to follow up that question to say, is a Mayweather-Pacquiao 2 out of the picture because Manny can't step foot in the U.S.?
Well, the answer to the first question is no. I have no desire to watch Floyd fight. I didn't like watching him when he was in his prime because, to me, he's just boring to watch. And it seems to me that in a lot of his fights, the outcome really isn't in doubt. It's just a matter of how boring the fight is going to be. It's just because of his style. So no, I don't. People at this point, people are just watching Floyd fight to see if he'll lose, right? So, and then if a 42-year-old Mayweather loses, well, big deal. And you can, 20 years from now, guys will be saying, "Hey, he was 90 years old when he was," So, I don't necessarily. I don't need to see him fight anymore. He has nothing more to prove. He's great. Probably one of the greatest defensive fighters we've ever seen. And I'd rather just leave it like that. Now, as far as him and Pacquiao, get out the rocking chairs, I guess. But I guess, there's no reason that fight couldn't happen. I guess that would all depend on Mayweather. I just think I read something earlier today or yesterday. I read something about how he wanted to fight in Tokyo. He wanted to fight a tune-up fight in Tokyo. So maybe he's thinking a fight with Pacquiao could be there. So I don't think the fact that Pacquiao can't really, because he's got tax issues, is that the deal?
Yeah, he's got, I think, 20 million, 30 million, but,
Yeah. So he's not trying to part with that money.
No.
So I don't think that would be an impediment to the fight. Because Floyd, I think, is kind of laying the groundwork for that by saying, well, I'll fight somebody in Tokyo.
Right.
Maybe so I don't think that would restrict anything. Floyd would be fine with fighting wherever. I think at this point, Floyd's looking for the big paydays, whatever it is, wherever they are. If that was Pacquiao, if it's Conor McGregor again in the octagon, I don't know. Floyd's looking for the cash. Not that I ever begrudge a man that. Ever. I would never tell somebody, don't go make your money, but I'm not interested.
Right. Got a question about the welterweight division. That hasn't been as exciting as, I think back to days when we were teenagers. Is Spence Jr. Crawford, when do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know. There's a lot of trash being talked back and forth, and Spence is telling him, Spence is basically, in so many words, saying that he's ducking him. And then I believe Crawford has injury issues, which kind of have nagged him throughout his career, as I remember. But again, so now we're going to get into kind of where I was going before.
Okay.
And this whole issue, and I'm going to sound like Teddy Atlas here for a minute, but
okay.
This whole issue to me is why MMA kind of was beating the brakes off boxing there for a while. UFC has one guy in charge. And if he says you fight, you fight. That fight gets made. All you're doing at that point is working out the money. At least that's the way I understand UFC works. Am I wrong? Because I don't really watch it.
You're totally right.
So, I mean, I think I've seen 2 MMA fights in my life. I'm not interested, but I like the way they do things. The biggest names, the fights everyone wants to see get made. There's no alphabet commission here and WBO there, and but Nevada won't give him a license, and they don't have that. And boxing, you can't get these fights made because, Golden Boy wants this and that, and Top Rank wants that, and what network is it going to be on, and none of these fights can ever get made. And we sit here, if we go back to Floyd and Pacquiao, that fight happened 5 years after it should have.
Right.
And that never would have happened if it wasn't, if you have a Dana White in the sport, that doesn't happen. We got Floyd Pacquiao, we get Floyd Pacquiao when it's supposed to happen. right at the peak of their careers.
Right.
Boxing needs centralization. There needs to be one commission, one or a small group of people in charge, and if Crawford is the champ, and enough of this WBO, all of this stuff, enough of, 4 different champs in each division, if Crawford's the champ, and a lot of people consider him pound for pound number 1, who's next in line? Spence.
Right.
Fights made, done. The champ is always a fighting champion, and he fights the very best. That's what a champ is. You go back to, like you said, the welterweight division when we were teenagers, like Sugar Ray Leonard fought everybody.
He fought everyone.
Hearns. I'm gonna fight Hearns. Who's after? I'm gonna go up and fight Hagler. I'm gonna fight Benitez. I'm gonna fight Duran. Everybody.
Yep. Everybody.
And those fights got made. And to me, that's boxing's biggest problem. So we're sitting around that we even have to have this discussion. That we're sitting around talking about, well, when's Wilder Joshua going to get made? When is, Thurman going to fight Spence? Or when's Crawford going to fight Spence? Or when's Crawford going to fight anybody? That we're even having this discussion is what's wrong with boxing. And also, the whole commission thing, you get into, if we go back to Canelo Triple G, we have these decisions, and almost everybody will tell you, you'll always find somebody that will say, well, they just gave Canelo the decision because they want to make sure there's a third fight, or some variation of that.
Correct.
And if you have a transparent commission, one governing body, right, they can be held accountable. Somebody can be held accountable, right? If there's an issue in the NFL, you hold Goodell accountable for it. And the buck stops there. And that's the end of boxing. You don't know where to go. You don't know who's...
You really don't.
Yeah, so I know I kind of went off on
it's fine.
a little bit of a tangent, but I think that's related to all of this, is that boxing needs to have some sort of central governing body where there can be transparency ensured, and to make sure that the fans who are flunking down 99, I think I remember the Floyd and the Mayweather Pacquiao fight was $100, right?
It was $100.
It was $100.
But if you wanted standard death, it was $90. And I was,
man, you see? Yeah, right.
Like, huh?
Okay, fine. So if I'm going to plunk down $100 to watch one fight in HD, right, then as a fan, I think you have to have some way of letting the fans know that this is all on the up and up. And if it doesn't seem like it's on the up and up, somebody is going to be called in the carpet for it. And I think that's all boxing fans want.
Hey, we're talking with Todd Bascom on the business of boxing, the sport of boxing, all the above, all your favorite fighters. Todd, I just want to briefly recap. I agree with you on the first fight of the Canelo Triple G. I thought, no way in the world, a draw. The last fight that happened a couple of weeks ago, I think that last round was so pivotal, that, you know, the fight could have went either way. I mean, me personally, I said, oh, well, I think Triple G pulled out that round. And a lot of other people went the other way.
And that's fine. I mean, I can see it. The only thing that kind of sealed it for me, even through the entire fight, was what's very clear is Triple G is clearly the harder puncher.
Yes.
Like, I thought his punches were harder. They were both throwing with bad intentions, but his punches were, when he throws a punch, I mean, it was thunderous. It was like, he clearly, and Canelo's chin has to be crazy because, I mean,
totally.
He walked through a lot of those punches. I mean, it looked like Triple G had him hurt there once in the fight. I can't remember exactly when it was.
Later on in the fight. It was somewhere
I think it might have been around the 9th round or something.
Yes, I was going to say, between 9 and 11, I thought he had him, and I said, uh-oh. Yeah,
I thought he had him. And so hats off to Canelo. I mean, look, what are you going to say? He's great. And
totally. Totally great.
Yeah, so, you know, but I don't know what's left for him. I think if he's going to stay at middleweight, I think it might be like some guys are going to have to come to him.
Yeah.
You know, I think a guy like Spence shouldn't have too much trouble getting up there.
Maybe even a 42-year-old Floyd for a money fight for him.
Okay.
I mean, Floyd beat him when he was 21. And what's he, 27, 28 now?
I don't.
Boxing purists might love to see Canelo take it to Floyd.
I think the problem with that is where they're going to fight.
True.
Because I'm not sure Canelo can make 147 now.
Right.
So or 154 even. So is Floyd going to go to 154? I mean, it damn sure can't be at 160.
Right.
Right, at middleweight. Is Floyd going to go to 154 or what? I don't know. I don't feel like if I'm Canelo and his people, or why would I go down? Why would I do that? So, I mean, I guess if the money's right, you'll do it. But from a career standpoint, where Canelo is, he's at the top of the fight game now. I don't even understand why. I wouldn't even fight him, to tell the truth.
You know, I just think whenever you mention Floyd's name, there's dollar bills attached to it.
That's true.
I mean, for as many people that want to see him just finally go down.
They want to see somebody beat him, but what I'm saying, too, is that, okay, fine, so you get your wish. You watched a 42-year-old man get beat. Congratulations. It's like, I don't care about Floyd getting beat now. I wanted to see him get beat at 28, not, 42 or so. But I'll give Floyd credit. I mean, he fought the best. When he fought De La Hoya, right? He fought Canelo. He fought, I forgot, he beat them all. So, I got to give him credit. It's just I don't like watching him fight. It's just boring. But that has nothing to do with him.
I got to tell you, the Republican, I hope I have the correct pronunciation, and Joshua fight, it looked a little, I mean, you and I, we text back and forth amongst our friends always. It looked a little underwhelming for like the first 5 or 6 rounds, and then Joshua just showed up. Or maybe he had showed up all along and he was just waiting for that opportunity.
I tend to believe that because fighters have people that know a lot more about boxing than you and I know. Who telling me like they spend time watching, and perfect example would be Floyd and McGregor's fight.
Yeah.
Where he pretty much carried McGregor, and everybody was like, "Oh, McGregor's doing so well."
No, he carried.
But Floyd knew what he was doing, and he knew that opening was coming.
Yeah.
And when he saw it, he jumped on it. And I kind of get the feeling the same thing happened with Joshua, especially with that first punch. The punch that started everything, that little short right hand.
Uh-huh.
Like, he knew somewhere along the line that he could land that punch. And he saw the opportunity, and that's when he threw it. And so I think it seemed to me he was just kind of waiting for the spot. And he was going to, and that to me is the sign of a great fighter. I'm still, I have to say, I'm not totally sold on Joshua, and I'm not totally sold on Wilder either.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. It will be the biggest thing in boxing in years.
Yeah.
When that
decades,
happens, so,
almost close to 2 decades.
Yeah. So that's another. It needs to happen. It needs to happen.
Hey, final question I have, and it's a business-related question. We were testing out the DAZN streaming service, which is, they like to hype themselves as the Netflix of sports. They're going to be doing strictly boxing and MMA matches. I wanted to know, based on all the different streaming services out there, is there a space just for a company like DAZN? Is there a space, and what is it that they do, or that they plan to do, that's going to want to make you become a subscriber?
Well, I think it's like with anything, they have to give you value, right? So, what does Vince McMahon have with WWE Network? He has like I think he has a subscription service too, right? That's kind of a standalone.
Correct.
And do you know what that costs?
$9.99.
Okay, so a month.
A month.
That's just like, okay, so, and then you have access to the WWE archives.
Yes.
And all of that. And I think if you're a hardcore wrestling fan, I mean, for me, I don't watch a whole lot of wrestling anymore, but for me, it's almost worth it just for the archives.
Right.
Right. So,
right.
If you give people that good value, and then they don't have to plunk down $100 to watch a fight in HD, and they get all the big live events for that subscription. So what? $10 a month, $120 a year per subscriber. And I think that's a little more than most people that are hardcore fans. Most people that are big fans will get one or 2 big fights a year on pay-per-view.
That's true.
And that about covers that, plus a little something extra. And then if you throw in that extra little value where, you can go back and watch great fights in the past or something, I think that's gotta. I think there's a space for that. Yeah, I think there's a place for that. Now, I will say, I like Brian Kenny, and I wasn't thrilled about the announce team.
Okay.
So, I mean, but that's its own separate issue. I thought Sugar Ray was good, but my problem with Sugar Ray when he does fight is that Sugar Ray is he was a little too great of a fighter, where he sometimes doesn't know how to speak in plain terms.
Okay.
Like, and so he'll kind of get, like Sugar Ray kind of gets into the technical, and like you just want to hear him describe the action. I like listening to him do fights because I understand what he's saying, but I think a lot of the common, if you're just going to get that casual fan in there, they don't want to hear all that gas bagging. They just,
Gotcha.
That's what I liked about Larry Merchant, because he was just out there running his mouth. and whether you liked him or not, you could just see, Larry is just being Larry. So, I mean, I think they need to tighten up the announce team a little bit, but it was good. I was impressed with the coverage.
I was too.
I think there's a space for that. I do.
Oh, okay. I was, of all the people I saw yesterday with their announcing team, was Chris Mannix. Love Chris Mannix, whether he's talking basketball or he's talking boxing.
Uh-huh.
Purist. Love listening to his podcast when he's just doing a straight boxing podcast, because it's like, for me, that space is very small, because you have everyone out here with a basketball podcast, or of course you have 8 million football podcasts. But I love listening to that, to him breaking it down and everything like that. I hope the best for them. I hope, just to piggyback off of what you were saying, I think the key is going to be the library, because unless you have an event happening every week, and if it can't be UFC, so it's going to have to be Bellator. It's going to have to be the other MMA, because UFC is already booked up.
And then you got to get deals with all of those organizations. So it's tough.
So if you can put on an event a week, then I think it'll work.
Right, but it can't be, some the United States Continental Featherweight Championship.
Right.
It can't be something like that. And so I think the criticism that somebody would come, are there enough events to sustain it?
Correct.
I think you make a very important point there. Are there enough events to actually sustain that? And I guess that's a very fair criticism, or question to ask, I should say.
That is so true. But hey, Todd, as always, want to thank you for jumping on the podcast to talk about, sports in general. We don't do any politics. We I think we have our own private space where you, myself, and a few of our friends, we might talk politics. We haven't brought it to a podcast yet. And, that's a topic that's very divisive. So I like to stay in this space where it's fun. We can have fun with it, and no one has, hard feelings at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But as always, I guess the best ways to follow you are on Twitter, Todd Bascom, Bascom. And as always, thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome. It's always fun.
All right. Take care, my friend.
All right. Thanks.